Dr. Reverend Petra Heldt. Dr. Heldt is the director of the Ecumenical Theological Research Fraternity in Israel. She lectures on the history and philosophy of the Orthodox churches and Jewish-Christian relations. In August 2005, she was awarded the Cross of the Order of Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany.
As a Christian, I have an interest in examining the validity of two fundamental principles on which our modern society is built. And both of them have been mentioned this morning several times over. I call them, one is the ethics of the golden rule, and the other the morality of witness. Contrasting those two notions with the equivalence in the doctrine of radical political Islamicists, we will be able to assess the degree of danger to which our principles are exposed and how to protect them from abuse. First, let us consider the golden rule. All our ethics are structured upon a unitary ethic. This principle can be summarized in the golden rule. It's a fundamental moral rule which simply means treat others as you would like to be treated. It is arguably the most essential frame for the modern concept of human rights, freedom, and democracy. Principal philosophers and religious figures have stated this in different ways. It has come to our attention first in the 4th century BCE, at the time of Alexander the Great, by the Greek philosopher Plato, and his student Aristotle developed the thought systematically. In the Hebrew Bible, it appears first in the book of Leviticus and says, "You shall not take vengeance, nor bear angry grudge against the sons of your people, but thou shalt love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord," in Leviticus 19, verse 18. The recommendation to be kind to the next is meant here in reference to the one living within my own society only. But a few verses later, this statement implies that the rule is actually to be employed to others as well, saying, "When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as a native among you. And you shall love him as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." The universality and unitary of that ethic is furthermore stated in the book of Tobit in chapter 4, written in the Hellenistic period and already influenced by the Aristotelian philosophy. And there Tobit says, "Take heed to yourself, my child, in all your works, and be discreet in all your behavior, and what you yourself hate, do to no man." This Greco-Judeo moral alliance became the universal ethic which the Jewish thinker Hillel the Elder stated in this way: "What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor." That is the whole Torah. All the rest of it is commentary. Go and learn. The Christian New Testament relates the Golden Rule in very similar terms. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, says it is called in Matthew chapter 7. The Apostle Paul in the epistles to the Romans summarizes, "Owe no one anything except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law." The commandments are summed up in this word: love your neighbor as yourself. Love fulfills all. A key element of that Greco-Judeo-Christian moral principle is that a person attempting to live by this rule treats all people, not just members of his or her in-group, with consideration. The basis of this rule is the recognition that on one level we are all the same, although we are not all equal. as for instance in regard to physical or mental abilities. But everyone should be treated as a human being. In particular, everybody should be equal under the law. This is a basis on which democracy is built, on which men and women achieved the same rights and slavery was ended in the Christian world. All people are to be treated the same. It is a unitary ethic on which our Western culture works. It is a goal towards which everybody aims, in spite of all failures to fully live up to it at all times. There is a singleness in that approach, in that it cannot be contradicted by another set of ethics for another kind of people. Whenever, regrettably, one law is applied to one part of society and another law to another part, surely opposition will rise, and rightly so. And if there are two things contradicting each other, then at least one of them is false. This is a basic assumption in the system of logic in our culture. Such logic of unitary ethic stands in opposition to political Islamic logic. The research of the Center for the Study of Political Islam argues that Islamic logic is dualistic. Bill Warner, a spokesman of that center, stated recently in an article in Front Page magazine of February 5, 2007, saying, "Dualism is the key to understand Islam. Islamic logic is dualistic. Two things can contradict each other, and both are true. Everything about Islam comes in twos, starting with the basic pronouncement, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. The Quran is actually two books, the Quran of Mecca, the earlier one, and the Quran of Medina, the later one. A verse written later supersedes the earlier, but both verses are sacred and true because the word of the Quran is considered to be the perfect word of Allah. The later verse is better, but the earlier verse cannot be wrong, since Allah is perfect. Warner concludes that this is a foundation of dualism. Both verses are right. Both sides of the contradiction are true in dualistic logic. Warner gives this example. The Quran of Mecca, in chapter 73, verse 10, states, "Listen to what the unbelievers say with patience and leave them with dignity." Warner observes, from tolerance, which we heard right now in this verse, we move to ultimate intolerance. Not even the Lord of the universe can stand the unbelievers, as is stated in the Quran of Medina in chapter 8, verse 12. "Then your Lord spoke to his angels and said, I will be with you, give strength to the believers. I will send terror into the unbelievers' hearts and cut off their heads and even the tips of their fingers." Two things can contradict each other, and both are true in this kind of dualistic logic.